All right, I'm here with John Wilson. He's with Pilar Post, and I literally had a question from a lady. She said, "This house is 7 years old. Do I need an inspection?" I said, "Let's talk to John about that." So, 7-year-old house, do we need an inspection?
Always, always get a home inspection. You never know what you're going to find. Walking through a house, your eyes, you rose-colored glasses. You fall in love with it. You see it for what it is, which is great. But you have no idea what's going on with some of the pieces of equipment within the home. The faucets, whether they're working, whether they're dripping, what's going on behind cabinets that you didn't open.
Right.
How cold is that AC going to get? Those are the kind of questions that we'll answer for you. So not to scare you off from the home, but just to know exactly what you're getting yourself into.
Cool. So, what kind of inspections do you do?
So we do residential inspections primarily. I mean, our goal is to really help home buyers know exactly what they're getting themselves into. So when they fall in love with the home, we want to educate them on, home maintenance items, things that just need to be taken care of on an annual basis, things that might be coming up on the end of their lifespan. You've been in a home the home's been 10 years old. You've got a couple things that are going to come to the end of their lifespan the next 5 or 6 years. And so it's really just about educating the clients. But residential home inspections, that's our bread and butter, whether it be on the buyer side or even on the seller side.
Do you have a lot of people doing seller inspections?
We do. It just depends on the market, what part of town. But
Okay.
listing inspections are great because for a homeowner who isn't savvy to what they need to do to maintain their home, they might just want that inspection so they know exactly what they can do to get the house ready to sell. So this way, when it comes time to get that offer and that purchasing side inspection, they know a lot of those boxes are going to be already taken care of.
And you have some sort of gadget to help with repairs.
Oh yeah, no, with
the repair estimator.
That's right. Yeah. So
okay.
We actually have 2 tools now. So with every inspection report that we do, within 24 hours, the third-party company evaluates that inspection. They're a national contractor. They evaluate it, get real-time price estimates for the items that are called out within the inspection that either need repair or replacement, and then you guys can use that as far as negotiation. Cool part is now, for realtors, we've rolled out a repair report generator. Now you can go into the report online and actually pull pictures and commentary directly from the report using the estimates and actually ask for credits at closing or ask for repairs right away. Download all that in a beautiful, professional-looking PDF that you can send off to the listing agent for negotiations.
And how long does that take to come back once you do the inspection?
Well, the estimates that are provided usually take 24, 36 hours, but that repair generator just depends on how quickly you can get in front of your computer.
Okay. And so with the inspections, there's always that misconception of, all right, you inspected it, but there's 3 boxes: inspected, deficient, and then
Not inspected,
not inspected.
and then also not present. There's 4 boxes.
Okay.
So, the boxes are, I get asked this a lot. Did we pass the inspection? And there's no such thing as a pass.
So what is that deficient box?
Yep.
Like, I mean, what is that? And from your point of view, how do we deal with that?
So deficient just depends on what are the Texas Real Estate Commission standards in that moment in time. And right now we're working on a specific set of standards that have been out for a little bit. But the D box really is just for something that's either, one, actually broken or not working, right? So deficient means deficient. It can also just mean that you're in an older home and it hasn't been upgraded in certain areas. So I'll use ground fault circuit interrupters, GFCIs. Homes built in the 70s and 80s aren't going to have the same GFCIs in the kitchen as modern built homes.
Right.
It doesn't make them worse or better. It just means they haven't been upgraded to modern standards. But I have to mark it as deficient because I have to go off today's current standards. So the conversation that I have with the buyer is really just about educating them and understanding that now this is considered a safety item because these receptacles in the kitchen should be GFCI protected. So next time you get electrical work done, or now, just upgrade those to GFCIs, and you're right, I've caught up to code.
Most common thing that you find on inspection reports that the normal average buyer does not see.
Well, when you're walking through the house, you're going to see things, from a topical perspective. We're actually going to, get in the attic, open up compartments. We're going to look in things that the buyers aren't going to see. So the one thing that I see more often than not, especially in an established city such as San Antonio, is a lack of insulation. Most insulation from the 80s and the 90s just doesn't meet modern standards. And so you've got AC units that have been upgraded, but the insulation hasn't. So you've got new AC units working twice as hard. Electric bills are higher because there's not enough insulation in the attic. And so that's something I see a lot. We also notice that the air conditioning themselves isn't necessarily working at its highest efficiency. And while you're walking through the house, it feels cold, it feels good.
Right.
But we're looking for a differential temperature range of 15 to 22 degrees. That means the air going into the unit, the air coming out has a difference of 15 to 22. It's cooling that air down. But we see it from 8 to 12 more often than you should. And what that means is you just got a unit that probably hasn't been serviced. Something as simple as being serviced on a semi-annual basis, to have an AC tech come out, make sure it's working properly, everything's cleaned off, filters are changed, yada, 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 but now it's working. But we call it deficient if it's not, because that's just something simple as home maintenance.
And that literally could just be changing out the air filter
Sometimes, yeah.
to get that differential back up to
Potentially,
it.
yeah.
What about on the heating side?
Similar story.
What kind of differential are you looking at?
We're just looking for hot. There's no
just for hot,
differential
okay.
requirements on the heating side, but we definitely want to see it get warmer, in the room. So if I set it to 80, I want to make sure the house is getting to 80, and you've got hot air coming in.
Another big thing that we look at is how are you going to address foundations? What do you look for as the inspector?
Yeah, foundations. It's a touchy subject, right? I don't want to ever scare someone off unless there's a major issue that needs to be addressed, because we all know that foundations can be very expensive. However, homes themselves move. Once a home's built, it's gonna sink a little bit. It's gonna shift. It's gonna just move. As people move in, they put their belongings in. Their weight is kind of distributed around the structure. Also going to vary just based on the climate, the weather, how much rain we're getting.
Right.
But so we're going to see things that we're going to see superficial cracks sometimes on the outside. We're going to see some corners that are popping, cracks in the ceiling, cracks in the wall. The question is, how much are we seeing, and how big of a story is it telling? Right? Cracks coupled with doors closing, cracks that go across one side to another, angled up one side. Each one has its own varying degree, but they all tell a different story when put together. Sometimes can tell a much bigger story. So, a little bit of settlement's nothing to be worried about. We're trying to find out and identify whether or not the movement that we're seeing is 30 years old and it hasn't moved since it was built, or is it brand new because this house is 10 years old and really shouldn't be moving. Right? You can tell a lot by a house and its foundation just by how you drove up in the street. Did your coffee spill as you were driving down that road? Will kind of tell you what kind of movement you're going to see in the soils around. But that also is it's all part of the same story, right?
Okay.
But when it comes down to it, we're going to tell you if we feel like that the foundation is functioning as intended, or if we feel like there's active movement, needs to be monitored, and you need to see have a foundation specialist or structural engineer evaluate it further.
Now, would you recommend engineers or foundation companies? What direction do you go when
Well, I think
you
there's
give that recommendation?
the structural engineer is going to be your best bet 9 times out of 10, not for any other reason other than they are a truly neutral party.
Right.
A foundation specialist, there's some honest people out there. There's plenty of them. But at the end of the day, they fix foundations.
Right.
And so if you want a truly neutral opinion, you go structural engineer. If you want an expert opinion of somebody who does it and does it regularly and may have done 3 other houses on this street, that foundation specialist is probably going to be the one to call. So each one brings a varying degree of what you're looking for. But I think just having a good conversation, it never hurts to have it and find out a little bit more about the neighborhood and the area to figure out who you should probably call.
Excellent. And then I guess what other kind of services do you have? Can you do any add-ons to your inspection? Can you, maybe one that I like when we get with you is you're scanning the walls.
Oh, yeah.
And all that. So
No, we've got plenty of add-ons. So depending on what the property is, whether it be a rural property with septics, with well systems, we can inspect those. If you've got a VA loan coming at you and you're required to get the well water tested or have a termite WDI inspection, we can do those as well. And then of course we also have upgradable services. So it's not we can give you just the inspection report if that's what you're looking for. We can also go above and beyond. And yes, we do have thermal imaging, the infrared cameras that we can walk through and scan the entire property looking for potential issues down the line that might not show their face yet because it's a fresh coat of paint or, it's a newer construction home and that water leak just hasn't quite made it all the way through that drywall just yet. Or if it's something as simple as insulation's missing on that whole sidewall. Now, those are the kind of things that the infrared scan's going to find. But yeah, we have plenty of add-ons. We can tailor the inspection to exactly what each client being different, needs.
nice. And then so for the older homes, how do you go about inspecting a house that has fuses on it?
Well, the
Because
inspection is going to be the
technically
same.
it's still working and all that. So
Yeah, we're going to be a little bit more particular because it's an older home. So there's other things that come along with age, right? And not to say that we wouldn't check as thorough on a newer home, but when it comes to fuses, there's probably not enough electricity in that house in the first place. For modern standards. So if it's just an older couple living in that home, they may not have nearly as many electronic devices as a newer, younger couple with a family, right? And so that fuse box is probably going to look exactly the same. However, if you've got a family of 4 living on 60 amp service, worst case scenario, they've changed some of those fuses out and put some wrong sizes in there. Next thing you know, you've got fire hazards and safety dangers all over the place. So we're going to be pretty thorough beyond, I guess, is probably the best way of saying it. But fuses can be a little bit of a challenge because that is truly one of those things that does not meet modern standards and more than likely needs to be upgraded.
Excellent, excellent. And then what's the process of, you said you're regulated by the state, by TREC, so what kind of processes do you have to go to be called an inspector?
So we have hours, hundreds of hours of course. So we've got to take 180 hours worth of coursework just to get licensed in the state of Texas. But then there's the experience behind it, right? We've got to get out in the field and actually do inspections. But our training is very, very thorough. I've got to take 2 national exams just to get licensed, or a national exam and a state exam just to be licensed in the state of Texas. And Texas is one of the more strict states. We're one of the few states that actually requires a license. We are regulated by the Texas Real Estate Commission, so just as real estate agents, we have specific rules we have to follow. We have a form that we have to fill out. So every inspection you get is following the same form, should be following the exact same form and format of the TREC Form 7-6 right now. We have insurance requirements. They require a minimum of $100,000 of errors and omissions insurance. We carry $1 million because we don't think $100,000 gets you very far these days.
Right.
And we want to make sure that our clients and our agents are covered when we're inside the home. But I mean, there's a lot, and then we have to renew our license every couple years. There's thorough background checks, so we are completely vetted by the state. They don't just let anybody come in and get a license. So fingerprinted, background checked, licensed, and then we have to go through continuing education courses and add those hours, 32 more hours every year.
Well, I must say, I mean, you're my go-to, so hopefully you can be other people's go-to as well.
Love to help out.
He does an awesome job, and let us know if you need any help with anything.